Rich and I even did a remix of Judas to kind of cut down a little bit of the sing along. But my boss, Tony Khan, wasn't feeling it. And I kind of agree with him because Judas is kind of transcended heel or babyface. It's a unique moment in our show that nobody else has.
Hey, this is Steven from PopCulture, and I am here today with the iconic Chris Jericho, the man, the myth, the legend. How are you today, sir?
I am rocking. I'm talking to you, man. How could I not be excited about that?
Well, you're far too kind.
Megadeth versus Bowie. There you go.
Look at that. Yeah. Oh, paying.
Megadeth Thick Rattlehead versus Aladdin Sane. There's a battle.
That's a nice, yeah. I feel like yin and yang. Yin and yang. What did I say? We are here today to talk about Fozzy's new album, Boombox, which, dude, is so good, man. I had a chance to listen to it, and I haven't stopped listening to it. Man, what is it like for you right now? I mean, you're getting ready to put this brand new album out. You guys are on tour. How are you feeling?
Well, it's cool to hear that because we've been calling this album Chinese FozOcracy because we started recording it in May of 2019.
Wow.
And, obviously stops and starts for, the reasons that everybody had, but we finally got it done and mixed and mastered and ready to go May of last year. But we didn't want to release it still kind of at the tail end of the pandemic. Can we tour on it? Can we go into radio stations when we're on that tour and promote it? Will people be ready? So now that it's coming out, we've been living with these songs for a long time, but now that other people get to hear it, it's like the ultimate litmus test. So that's very cool to hear people's reactions. And, because it's different now how you release a record too, because, half this record we've been playing live. Three singles from the record have come out already, and the record hasn't even been released. So people know some of the songs, but they haven't heard all the songs. And I think, the 6 songs that we're playing are just as good as the 6 songs that we're not playing. So that's kind of the tale of 2 albums for hardcore Fozzy fans. So anyways, point being, I'm glad to hear that you like it. We think it's our best record, although I've been saying I think it's our 3rd best record ever because I always wanted a band to say that. And that's how I tell if people are listening to me while I'm doing interviews or not, because if they don't respond, I know they're not paying attention. This is our 3rd best record ever.
It's our 3rd. It's the 3rd best. Yeah, it's easily the 3rd best by a long shot. I feel like when I first listened to it, I thought to myself, I was like, is this the heaviest record that Fozzy has done so far? Because you guys have put out some really heavy stuff, but this album is just like chock full, like Vulture Club, especially. Wow, what an awesome song. Was your mindset going into writing these songs? Were you like, let's just do whatever? Or were you like, let's write some heavy jams?
Well, I mean, obviously with Rich Ward writing riffs, it's always going to be heavy. But I think when the Judas record became such a big hit, Judas just went gold, for us to get a gold record in 2022 is a huge accomplishment. I mean, it's a huge accomplishment at any time, but especially now. We really wanted to kind of continue that vibe. We didn't realize how important rock radio is until we started getting played on rock radio. And Judas, throwing a lot of stats at you, but Judas had, 3 top 10 singles and a lot of buzz. And it's just like, we've now figured out what the true Fozzy formula is. Very heavy, but also very melodic with a lot of hooks. 3 hooks in a song. Oh, that's the hook. No, that's the hook. Oh, no, that's the hook. So we wanted to just continue in that direction. So yeah, it is a very heavy record, but it's also very pop sensible too. And what really made me realize that was we did a listening party in London in December where we played the new record Boombox in front of, a sold out show at the Islington Academy. And to see people's reactions to each song confirmed what we knew, that every song on this record has you moving your head
Yep.
And every song on the record is an A-side, because even though there's 12 songs on Boombox, every song, and this is people hearing them for the first time ever, basically at the time, were like, oh my God, this is great. Now this is great. And I was okay, maybe they're not going to like, well, they like that one too. They like them all. So I think it's very heavy, but if pop music could be very heavy, it'd be Fozzy. I guess that's what we're doing.
That's fair enough. You're right. It's very groovy. I mean, it's very just
right.
Boom, boom, and no skips. I mean, top to bottom, like hit play and let it run all the way through, and then hit repeat, because like you're gonna want to listen to every single track all over again. I really agree with you. I think that Boombox is such an elevation. And one of the things that stood out to me was your vocals on this album sound a lot like Ozzy. Like there were moments where I was like, whoa, that sounds like Ozzy Osbourne. Did you do anything different? Did you do any kind of like vocal stuff? Because it's not that they haven't necessarily sounded, it's just, it blew my mind. It just really blew my mind how much you sound like Ozzy now, Chris.
Well, I've always had that in me. And, you know, it's not trying to sound like Ozzy. That's my vocal range, that really high end. So there's always been elements of it. As a matter of fact, on the Sin and Bones record, I said, let's just record a Sabbath song, you know, like let me try and sound like Ozzy. And we did Fairies Wear Boots. And if you listen to it, it's like, okay, now that's Ozzy. So we've always had some of those elements, but you're right. There is, you know, there's a couple songs. I mean, Nowhere to Run, even when we play it live every night. Nowhere to run. That when I'm singing it, I feel like, oh, this is the Ozzy part, you know. And I think one of the reasons for that is, you know, when Rich Ward writes a melody line, or Johnny Andrews, our producer, who co-writes all the songs with us, they know what my wheelhouse is, and they know that there's that, you know, that high end, I guess you'd say Ozzy-esque style to it. You know, some people sound like Steve Perry. Some people sound like, you know, Bruce Dickinson. Some people sound like, you know, McCartney. I sound like Ozzy. So that's kind of my wheelhouse. And you're not trying to write songs that sound like Ozzy, but there are definite parts that have that vibe to it. And even I can feel it and I know it, which is cool. It's fun to know that, like, if you're going to be compared to somebody, listen, people forget. Ozzy's one of the greatest rock and roll singers of all time. So I'll take that comparison any day of the week, man.
I could not agree more. Was the songwriting process for Boombox different than any of the other albums in the past, or do you guys have sort of a method that you go through?
Yeah, hooking up with Johnny Andrews was kind of our Lars and James hooking up with Bob Rock moment, in that we decided, you know, let's bring him in and let's make him the captain of the ship. This is no longer a debate between Rich and Chris as to where the songs go or what we do. Hey, let's do a 16-bar solo. Yeah, let's make it a 7-minute song. That's great. Johnny Andrews is a guy that, you know, if you haven't heard of him, you'll hear more about him as the years go by, because he's written, I think, probably 20 #1 songs for Shinedown and 3 Days Grace and Hailstorm and, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The hits just keep on coming with Johnny. And so when we started working with him, it did change the entire songwriting process. I don't write a lot of lyrics anymore because Johnny's just a better lyric writer than I am. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's all that matters, is the song and what's best for the song. So working with him, we learned a lot from Johnny, even though it was hard at first. We weren't happy with giving him the reins. Who the this guy think he is? We can't do a solo. I can't do a Rob Halford scream at the end of this song. It's like, no, radio doesn't want to hear you do a Rob Halford scream in this song. Well, radio. Well, do you want to be on the radio or not? It's like, okay, I'll put my ego in the back seat. So, and like I said, the bottom line was Judas was a huge hit for us. So let's continue forward in that vein. And Boombox is not Judas part 2, but you can see, you know, if it was the Bible, that do you want to start a war begat Judas, which begat Boombox. There's a generation there where you can see. So I don't think it was doing anything different. I think it was more doing things the same way. Let's do the triple hooks. Let's keep it very groovy and heavy. Let's keep the songs shorter when they need to be. There's probably a few more guitar solos on this record, but if you notice, like I Still Burn, the guitar solo is 4 bars. Who does a 4-bar guitar solo anymore? Well, the difference is on Judas, there probably wouldn't have been a solo at all. So there's been some give and take. And I think once again, we're really, really happy with this record. And I think it's going to do some really big things for us the same way that Judas and the Judas record did.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing that I'm curious about is, so you're, like you said, you're dropping this in the middle, near the end of a tour. So does the album coming out with still, 8 dates left or so, does that change your set list at all? Do you still play the same songs, or do you feel more like, hey, let's throw in a couple other ones, No,
because like I said, we're already playing 6 songs from the record.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So unless you're going to pull an Iron Maiden and just do the whole new record in its entirety. I mean, we're in a really cool place right now where Eddie Trunk came and saw our show at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park in Jersey. And he's like, dude, you guys have like a legit catalog of radio songs now that you have to play. And, I'm throwing a lot of stats, but it's okay. We do have 7 top 30 singles that people know. And then you throw in, Enemy and Sandpaper, which are staples of our live set, and then they've only got 5 or 6 other songs to play with. So we do have 8 records, and you want to kind of throw in, some songs that work live. And there's some songs that we like to do for ourselves that are always cool to play. So what do you drop? And I think, like I said, with Nowhere to Run coming out in 2019, Sane came out in 2021. I Still Burn came out a few months ago. And then the record comes out. Things have kind of changed as how you promote an album now. Before, the single would come out 2 weeks before the record comes out, and then you do another single, 4 months later, and then you're kind of done.
You've talked about Judas, and Judas is clearly, that's your entrance theme right now. And that's the JAS, the Jericho Appreciation Society, coming into Judas. And I want to tell you that when I was listening to the album and I was listening to Vulture Club, I was like, this song has got big mood energy for an entrance theme. Is there any chance in the future that you plan on swapping Judas out, or is Judas going to stay the mainstay?
I think, we talked about that before the JAS started, and Rich and I even did a remix of Judas to kind of cut down a little bit of the sing-along. But my boss, Tony Khan, wasn't feeling it. And I kind of agree with him, because Judas is kind of transcended heel or babyface. It's a unique moment in our show that nobody else has. And it was organically created by the fans. They like singing Judas. It's part of the AEW experience. So for us not to play Judas would be, like going to a Megadeth set and Dave's getting, clever and doesn't play Holy Wars. And you're like, what the man? That's the one I wanted to hear. Well, you've heard it so much. You really want to hear it again? It's like, yes, we want to hear it again. So we want to hear Judas. We want to sing along with it. So, and I get people all the time, well, you're a heel now. They shouldn't be singing along. Okay, great. So 1 week I take it away, you, and people boo. And then what do I have? What's my entrance after that? Let's say we used another Fozzy song. It's not the same. So I think Judas is evergreen at this point. And I understand the reason why, and I agree with it to an extent.
That's a totally fair. I completely understand that. Really, you put that into big perspective for me. And in talking about sort of the blend of the music and wrestling and all that, do you feel in some ways like a godfather of that correlation? Because now you have so much music and wrestling crossover. You've got Brody King, who's in a band, and you've got the Butcher, who was in a band. You've got, Swerve as a rapper. You got the Acclaimed. I mean, there's all of this music wrestling amalgam now. And it feels like that really all started with Chris Jericho and Fozzy.
Well, I mean, it might have, but there's always been guys that have been in bands, and there's always been actors that have been in bands. How far are you willing to go? You know what I mean? How hard are you willing to work for it? Because there will always be a prejudice against us because we're wrestlers. You know, I'm sure I talked to Taylor Momsen about this from the Pretty Reckless. You know, people had a problem with her because she was Cindy Lou Who and, you know, Grinch That Stole Christmas 25 years ago. Jared Leto and 30 Seconds to Mars. I mean, they play the Hollywood Bowl. You know, I think Andy Williams in Every Time I Die, even though they're currently broken up, that's the closest that you could talk about a guy who legit was a big time, you know, festival headlining band.
Yeah.
So Fozzy, we did have to work twice as hard to get people's respect. And that's fine. We always knew that we would get it because we write great songs and we put on great live performances. Every band has a gimmick. You know, Kiss wears makeup. Slipknot wears masks. 30 Seconds to Mars has an Oscar-winning actor as the lead singer. That gimmick lasts for about as long as one song. Yeah. And then after that, is it good music or is it bad music? And we don't care who the f***'s in the band. If the music sucks, we don't want to hear it. So, you know, wrestling, not wrestling, pioneer, not pioneer. If anybody wants to do it, get into it. But no, it's not easy. And anybody that thinks just because that you have a name value in one vocation and are instantly Rob Zombie, same thing when he started directing movies. People are like, oh, what the fuck, Rob Zombie? What's he going to do? And he puts out, you know, House of a Thousand Corpses. People are like, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I love it. So, you know, that's what you have to do. You have to just not listen to people's comments and just do it. And that's what we've been doing. And I think, you know, once we got that gold record with Judas, anybody now who has a problem with Chris Jericho and Fozzy, just because I'm in wrestling, you know, just off, you know, we're never going to win you over anyways. And that's fine. You know, I can't worry about people who don't like the band because of me. All I can do is worry about keeping our fans happy and about making new fans of people that haven't heard Fozzy. If you don't like Fozzy because I'm a wrestler, well, guess what? It's been 20 years. I'm not stopping wrestling. It's like people that still don't like Iron Maiden because Yannick Gers is in the band. Guys, it's been 20 years. Get over it. He's not going anywhere. You know, Ace Frehley's not in Kiss. Tommy Thayer's in Kiss. It's not changing. Get over it.